Hello, welcome to the stream. Actually, we are gonna start soon. Few seconds. Just sharing the last invite, and then we are live, really live. Let's see. So today we have great plans, good stuff to do. So let's see how this is going to work. Let me also figure out how this works here. Trying this for the first time. So let's see if the chat tool works as well. Haha, fun. This part works, but this part doesn't. Okay, let me see. Ah, now. Okay, I should look into the right window. Nice. So we are fully online now. That's pretty cool. Well then, let's start the show for today. We have great plans. We will do some really cool stuff about building an AI chat. Actually, this is a new project of mine called Cozy Coder. You will find this on GitHub. It's open source, and it will become, hopefully at some point in time, an AI chat focused on developers. So really good stuff for developers, not just for everyone. And yeah, today the goal is actually to get something like a chat user interface for this. So let's see what we want to do here. So first, sorry, I have a little drawing. Not the very best one. Let's make this a little bit smaller. So the plan is basically to have something like this. You know this from other AI chats. There's a chat with a title. There's questions by user. Well, you as a user, as a developer, enter questions. The LLM responds, and you go through that question response cycle all the time. On the bottom you have a possibility to enter a question, obviously. So you can actually enter a new question, send it, and then it goes here to the top. Then it goes here to the next one. So the functionality is basically that on the bottom there's a text field where you can enter the question. You can send it, and then it will be appended at the end, and the whole stuff will just scroll up all the time. And of course, you can scroll up and down the whole window. And of course, we will also have a list of chats, because otherwise this doesn't make much sense. That's of course the case. But yeah, that's the plan to build this. And we do this with Phoenix LiveView, because Phoenix LiveView is actually pretty cool for exactly building stuff like this. So let's dive directly into it. So first, few words about the project. It's a Phoenix project, obviously, and I've generated also the authentication for it. So let's maybe just start first by looking into the Phoenix project, how it runs. So 1 second. Yeah, everything up so we can. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. So first let's start the database. Then let's ensure everything is set up correctly. Database wasn't ready yet. Great, database migration worked. So now mix Phoenix server to start the server. And this one. And we will check what's running here. Yay, it works. So we can register a user. Let's say we register the user fooexample.com. We give it some very secret password. And then we look into the confirmation email. Have a confirmation email here. So this, if you don't know it yet, there is a kind of a virtual mailbox system being built into Phoenix that works just out of the box when you use Phoenix. And so when you send a mail, it receives here in this virtual mailbox. And now we can just empty the mailbox and we are actually confirmed. So now we have a confirmed and logged in user. That's exactly what we wanted. What we wanted to have here. And now we can continue from here. So what will be the first thing is we want to change actually the routing here. So what we want to change is, I looked this up front actually. So what we want to do is actually we want first to redirect. So basically the idea is when the user comes to the application, the first thing that the user does is opening there is no index page basically for this application, and this doesn't make much sense. So the user comes to the index page of the application and is redirected to the chat, and or better to his chats or her chats, and we will use the redirect to do that. And of course the chats will be protected by the authentication, so we'll use this in a protected area of the router. And this is actually what we want. So we need some chats, we need a chat resource, we need then the redirect being set up, and we need to protect the chat resource to make sure that it requires authentication. So this is the first thing we will set up. So when we look back here at the drawing, what do we need for a chat? So basically, of course, a chat belongs to a user, and a chat has many questions, and each question has a single answer. That's a very simple model, and for the moment that's good enough. So let's see how we can actually make, so this is quite easy to model. We can just look this up actually in the Phoenix documentation. Better not in the Phoenix documentation, in the actor documentation, sorry. So let's see if we're on the latest. Yes, good. So what we basically need to see is we need to see the schema here. And I always forget how to do the has many and belongs to an actor. Here, associations. That's what we're looking for. So this is basically what we will do. We will have a chat instead of a post, and that chat will has many questions, and each question is then with a question and well, it's basically we'll probably call it message. So it has many messages, and each message then has a user message and an assistant response, because that's usually how you call the LLM. It's an assistant. So that's what we will do. And of course we'll have the belongs to. So let's just start doing that. So first of all, we want mix Phoenix. We want help. And let's not do this here. Let's do this here. So mix help Phoenix Gen. Now the interesting thing is which one do we generate a live view? That is what we are looking for. So let's see what the documentation is telling us here. Phoenix Gen live. So the basic functionality is clear. We need to define the context. We need to define the entity, table name, and then the fields here. So what we want here is we want the chats context. Yes, chats context with a chat and chat entity basically. So let's do that. Gen live. Chats context, chat entity, and the chats table, and it has a title of type string. Does it have anything else? Yeah, it has many questions, but we'll add this later. So let's start with this first. So here we go. It tells us already we need to add several files to the router. So let's go to the router, and here we see different places. So we have the authenticated user, exactly this one here. So here we have a live session, and within this live session we can actually pass in our chats. So we have, for whatever reason we should do this, I don't think so. So here we go. We have now added the chats to the authenticated user area. So now the chats should work, and let's also just run actor migrate to migrate the table. And it shows me that I did something that creates a warning. That's nice. We can do this later. So now we have ran the migration. So now we can start the server again and let's have a look into the Cozy Coda. So this works still, but now we have the chats, and if we open them, we can create a new chat, give it a title, Hello World, because that's what you should start as a developer, a Hello World chat, and make the LLM say Hello World, obviously. What else should you do? So now we have it, and we can open it and show it, and we can theoretically edit it, whatever this means. In this particular case, we can edit the title. That's not much, but at least we can do that. So that's it. Looks like we have a working chat. Very first step. Of course, there's one thing missing, and that's an important one actually. And what's missing here is the tests. So let's also run mix test. And I'm pretty sure this will fail because we now moved the chats behind the logged in user, and here we see it already. So we have 6 failures, which is actually what was expected. No, I haven't configured bcrypt in my configuration file. Okay. Let's double check this. Ah, interesting. That's obviously not what we wanted to do. Yeah, but it still fails because we have yeah, it looks like something fails. Let's figure this out. So, but first let's commit this one little change here. So we have adjusted the configuration. Remove bcrypt from test config. The reason for this is actually we have the Aragon hash algorithm being configured, and I added this later. So first run I used the bcrypt, which is obviously not the best choice, and so I changed this later, and it looks like I overlooked the config for tests. That's how it is. So now let's see which test is failing. And that's the chat live test. This one here, chat live test, yes. Okay, chat live test is failing in line 27. here we go. So we try to do the chat, which is correct. But the problem actually is that this is actually not how it can work. So before we can actually do the test, we need an authentication. So let's have a short look into the user auth test, how this is done. So here we have, so this is a generated test. I didn't write it myself, but at least we can look actually how it works. So how does it work? First we have we have a secret key base from the config. Well, that's what you need for having a cookie. And then we init a session. So let's have a quick look where this init session is coming from. This has been added to the contest, which is a generic helper. That's great. So we can basically use that one. And this is coming from somewhere else. But so this should be available then as well. And we have then a user fixture that we return. With that user fixture, we can say we have a login user. So we do a login actually. And then we have a session. So this is my session from the connection. I read the user token from this session. So it looks like this. So probably this is, the session is actually stored and we have a logged in user. So we have this session here, and then we redirect it to whatever we want to use. And that's basically it. So what we basically need is, we need this cookie. So we have accounts, generate user session for a given user. That looks like what we want to do. So accounts, generate user session. That makes sense. Oh, no, that's. And with that we can put the session and a request cookie. Okay. What is remember me cookie? Cozy Coda web user remember me. Interesting name. And we can fetch the cookies and log out the user. Yeah, good. Log out the user is not what we are looking for, but we can put the session actually. That's putting the session is actually what we want to. So let's do that part. Good. So we need to do this in a setup area. So similar to this one here. We have a setup function which is executed before we execute everything else, and we take, or we basically generate. So what we do is we put session here. And before we can do that, we need to generate a user. Today I'm very, very bad at typing. So now we have generated a user, and of course we need a user to generate a user. So that one, of course, is also required. So the user is coming from the user fixture. So we have a user which is created from the fixture. Then we have a user token that is generated for that user. We init a session, and we put the user token into the session, and then we have not the user fixture. Now in this case we don't need the user here, just the connection. So now when the connection is entered, let's see if this works. No, it doesn't. Of course it doesn't, because the user fixture is coming from the accounts fixture. Okay, nice. Okay. So cozy coda dot accounts fixtures. Mix test. Yeah. Oh, damn. Almost. Almost. Undefined function. Accounts generate user session. Yes, of course it's undefined because we didn't put an alias for the cozy coda dot accounts module. So this is an import problem. Oh my god, we fixed the test. Yay, great stuff. So before we do anything else, let's commit all the code. Let's quickly go through it. So this is the chat schema, the chat context. We have some LiveView, well, the form component for editing a chat, the index to show the chats, the index to the HTML. So this is actually the index LiveView, and this is the corresponding LiveView HTML. So same for show, and for show HTML we have adjusted the router. Of course we have a database migration. We have tests, fixtures, great, and chats, context, and live view. Nice. Okay, so now we have the chat. Now we have the live view in place. Now we can close that one and that one. And when we look here, in the router, we don't have to do anything here right now. So we can also close that one. So now we just have the chat test. And what we want to do now is we want to add the new type and the new type is exactly what we looked into earlier. So we have here the actor schema. So what we need is now we need a second schema, which is our message. So let's do this as well here on the bottom. Here we go. So mix Phoenix Gen. And this time we just need a schema. Yeah, we just need a schema. And the schema, this is how you call this. The schema in this case is the chat's message. And it gets the name message. It has it has a user message, messages, user message of type string, and it has the assistant response, which is also of type string. Makes actor dot migrate. We will run later, because first this is the create messages. So now we have the table, but the table is not complete. Obviously, what's missing here is actually the a column that references the correct chat. So we have the chat ID, which is obviously also a binary ID, which is active speak for a UUID as a binary ID maps to a Postgres UUID type. That's actually what we want to say here. And now let's ask the documentation about the so how do we add a foreign key here in the active migration? I think this is the one I'm looking for. Product ID, references. We don't need a composite key. It is just good enough to reference the chats. So let's do this. References the chats table. And now we can run mix actor called migrate. Huh? Okay, looks like I don't have to pass in the column type, which makes sense. This can be derived. Cannot be implemented. What? Okay. Looks like we need to pass in the type here as binary ID. Does this actually work? It works. Good. Let's check if the tests still work. Yay, works as well. So now we have the chats and we have the messages. So let's look into the message schema, which has a user message, an assistant message. That's fine. But now we want to change a few things. The first thing we want to change is we need the field for belongs to so let's see how this was in the syntax. Belongs to chat. Here we go. Now it belongs to chat. So, and in the chats, not in the chats, in the chat.ex, we need to add the has many chats. No, as many messages. Is it this way? Yes, awesome. And of course, this doesn't make sense. Okay, let's see what the tests are saying, and they should actually fail. No, they don't fail. And why don't they fail? Because we are actually not doing anything with it. So we have now a has many relationship and a belongs to relationship, but we don't actually have any tests for doing anything meaningful with it. And that makes sense because we need to write the test in this case ourselves. So let's do that. And adjust the test. But first let's stage this now. Well, let's first look into what tests do we have. So the tests we are interested in first is the tests that are dealing with the database. So we want to test the context first, of course. So in the context, we have the chats test. And that's what we are looking for. So we, no, not this one. Here we go. So now we have the chats test. And we want to check the chat. We want to test the chat test. So let's do that. Let's first think about it. How do we want to test chats? We have a list of chats, which is okay. We are not interested in any details here. So when we are having a list of chats, we just have a list of chats with titles. And all relevant information is within the chat object itself. And then when we get a single chat, that's a different kind of story. When we get a single chat, we might want some more data. So we have to figure out, should we actually load the data or should we actually load all the messages with the chat or not? Which is a very good question. And then we need to figure out if we create a chat. Well, that's very easy. We just create the chat. All is good. With invalid data, it doesn't matter. Update the chat is also fine. But what we need is actually two things. So first of all, we need to ensure that we can not just create a chat, but also add messages to a chat. So we will not just create messages, but we will add them to the chat. So every message that is created always needs to belong to a chat. So obviously we need to do that. So how do we do that in Actor? This here. So the assoc function, let's see what the assoc function does. Builds a query for the association in the given struct. In the example below, we get all comments associated with to the given post. So here we have post is, we get the first post, and we get an assoc for the post on the comments. Okay, this is basically give me all the posts from the all the comments from the post. Okay, let's see what else do we have. Another function is build assoc. We are pretty much looking for this one. Builds a struct from the given assoc instruct. If the relationship is has one or has many, and the primary key is set in the parent struct, the key will automatically be set in the build association. Okay, nice. So we have the post with the ID 13. We built an assoc for the post on the comments. Okay. So okay. So here we are taking the comments and then build belongs to for this. But you can also pass the attributes, which can be mapped. Build assoc, text cool. Nice. Or we can pass in a map. That's nice. So basically that's what we are looking for. We want to build an assoc which gets actually the map of a user session. No. So basically what we want to do is we want to build an assoc on our chat for the messages association, and we pass in the user query or the user message actually. And later when the LLM responds, we can then fetch the same message and set or update the assistant message. That's basically how it will work. So the interesting thing is that we always need a chat first. And then once we have a chat, we can actually append the first message. So let's do that. So we have to build assoc. Here, this one is interesting. So build assoc. The given attributes are expected to be structured data. Seems good. Yeah, I think so as well. So that's actually a nice one. So we can just use a change set here to pass in the data that we get from a LiveView, for example. So, or from the parameters in the request, basically, which is the same. So we can actually enter the user message here, and then pass the user message down and cast it here as a field, and get a change set that we can just throw into the database. Woohoo! That's exactly how we want this. Let's go then. Oh, this is wrong. So let's first check the chat. So basically we have the change set here. We have the change set here in the message. So what we do in the message here is we have the message and then we cast the message. But here is exactly the point. We shouldn't do this, but it's not the post. We have chat here. And in chat, and do now the chat here. And no, wrong one. And now we can just say the chat should be build ASOC for the chat, no, for the messages, and we pass in. No, we don't. We do in the next one. So this is pretty cool. And of course, as we said already, assisted response will come later, so this is not required right from the beginning. Good. So, oh no, compile error. Why isn't it compiling? Undefined function build ASOC2, because it is build ASOC3. But attributes is empty. Huh? No, it has to be imported, but from the it has to be imported from the actor. Good. So now we have the build ASOC, and we are passing this in. So let's go to the chats test. So very first thing to do now is writing a test that does exactly this. So let's first run the tests again if everything is still fine. Yep, good. So now that we have created a chat, and we have updated a chat, and we have deleted a chat, and we have changed it, we will write another test, which is for create message 1. No, it's not one, it's two actually. With valid data. So create message 2 with valid data adds message to the chat. No, not to the chat, to our chat. So what do we have? We have the valid attributes, and they are well, we know that we only need the user message right now, so we can just pass in the user message, which in this case is, can you say hello world? And then we do an assert. We expect an OK. So if you're new to Elixir, this nice construct here with OK, that's pretty similar to a result type in Rust or in Glean. Just that Elixir doesn't have a static type system yet. And because of that, we use usually this construct here with the OK, which is basically the same, but just not with having explicit type for this. And what we get back here is we get back actually a message. And this message will be called message. So this is typical Elixir type mapping, pattern matching, all the fun stuff with Elixir. That's what the language, what makes the language so great. So we have create message, and we pass in a chat. Fixture and a message. No, not the message. The valid attributes, of course. And we assert that the message, user message, is equal to, can you say hello world? Of course there's a question mark missing, so let's go for it. Okay, here we go. If we run this test, guess what? It will fail because we didn't implement the message. So, but first it doesn't compile. Why doesn't it compile? Because it aliased once again the wrong message. Or better, it shouldn't alias it, because it has to alias. So now it aliased the right one. Come on. No. I wanted to add the message, the right one. Now we run the tests again. It should still fail. And it does, because the function create message 2 is undefined or private, which is, we know why it's not there. And that's the chat's context. So the chat's context contains a lot of things, but we actually want to go pretty much to the end. And we want to add a new message. And we do that by first, of course, adding a documentation. Let's keep this good style of doing it. What does it? It creates a message in the given chat. So it gets an example. Which is IEX create message, and this is chat and the, what do we put in, the user message, which is a string. And we expect back, okay, and a message. Well, we actually expect back a message with, let's do this later. So, and we do the same. IEX create message chat user message some bad value, whatever bad value actually is, and we get back an error and an actor change set. Sorry. Let's grab a small coffee and continue. So here we go. Now we have the doc, and let's also add the function, which is the create message, which is getting a chat, and which is getting the attributes. And we pass in the default value of an empty map. Do. Here we go. So what are we doing? Well, we have, basically we do the same as the create chat message above. We have a message, a new message struct being created. We pass in the message change set with the attributes. This is actually the change set method, change set that we have defined here, where we are actually doing the build assoc. And what we do here is we pass in the chat as a first. So we need to fix this here. Wait. Okay. We did it wrong. So we need to first pass in the message, then the chat, and then the attributes. But in this case, it doesn't make sense. So it doesn't make sense to do it like this. It makes more sense to do it like that. We do the change set, and then we do the repo insert. And basically that's it. So looking back at our test, this should now already work. And what do we get? Oh my god, a failure. So function change set 2 is undefined or private. What? Ah, this can't be true. Let's see, here's something. Here we go. Et voila. We have a test that is working. So now we have a test that proves that we can add something. Very nice. So now we can add a message. And with this, we can just create a new message with a user message appended to it. But that's not all we want to do. What we also want to do is we want to add another test that actually shows, no, not that shows the messages, that that lists the messages. So let's say we have list chats. Now let's first add, let's update a message first. So this is much easier. We have the update to function similar to chat with valid data. and it updates the chat. Plus, we should also have one for the invalidator with invalidator returns error change set. Which brings us to the question, what is invalidator? So invalidator is obviously not having a user message. So let's start with this here first. We actually get an error. So, but we should also expect the error. So the test here is incorrect. So over here we have actor change set. And the actor change set wait. Yeah, that's all we need. And we can just say that we pass in so let's just pass it in. So this test now is quite simple. Nice. So we want to update the one as well with valid data. So let's do that first. How do we update this with valid data? First we do once again, well, we need first a chat, which we can do this inline. So first we need to create a message with a fixture for the chat and some value for the user message. Like, can you say hello world? And this one is now message. And we want to update the message. So how do we do that? Well, we call chats update, but we call chats update with some input. Call them attributes for updating. So what pass in? Well, we want to pass in the assistant message, which is, well, let's be a creative LLM ourselves. Yes, of course. Here is hello world. So next is the assert. So what do we want to check? As before, we want to check that we get an OK result, which is of type message. And we call it message. And we want to get this by the chats dot update message, which gets the message and the update attributes. And then of course we want to assert that the message dot assistant response is equal to how do we do this here? Yeah, to some updated title, right? Is equal to this wonderful string here. So this will not work. As usual, create message. Yes, first of all, it doesn't work because we just call create message, which doesn't make sense because we are in the chats module. So the the function update message is missing, and it gets a message and attributes. So the update message, well, this should basically do the same as a straightforward. So we take the message, pass it into message dot change set with the attributes, and then we just call repo.update, and that's it. Let's see if it works, and it worked not. Chat update message. And now we see what the problem is. So the problem is we don't pass in the message. That's the problem. So we have a change set here for the chat, but actually here for the message we have a change set which gets the chat in and we create another change set update. And this one gets a message and attributes. And it is less complex because what we do here is we do actually what we did before. We pass in the cast with the attributes, and we tell it that we have a user message and an assistant response, and we have validate required, which is always just the user message. So now we can call this one here just the change set as it was before. And let's also put this to the top. Nice. So now we fix this, and we can now also fix this here, because in this case we need to call the new change set. Let's see what happens now. Still an error. Why is it still an error? Because the test is broken. What we do here is we check for the we pass in the assistant message. But that's not correct. It is the assistant response. Let's see what happens. What's going on here? Change set cast. Oh no. What? Stream seems to run. That's good. Then it was another hiccup here. Maybe just a chat tool. Yeah. I hope you can still enjoy the stream. So let's continue. 1 second. Okay, so now that we have done that, so stream seems to be stable. Let's see. So with valid data updates, the chat, no function, clause matching in change set cast 4. Oh. That's interesting. following arguments were given. So what's the difference between this and this? We are passing the message. I see what the problem is. So let's see if this is working. Well, it will not work, but it will give us maybe a better error message. Yes, it does. Ha! You see what the problem is? So the first time we called this function here, and if you look very, very carefully, we pass in the message, but we also pass in here at the beginning an OK. So basically what we pass in is something like the result of something else. We don't pass in the message, we put the whole result wrapper into it. And so what we now changed here is by adding some pattern matching, we only accept the first argument if it is a struct of type message, and then we assign it to the name message. So this is basically the same, just with the difference that if the input is not of type message, this will just not match anymore. This is a nice feature of Elixir, so we can move the error actually up front. We can basically do the same here as well, by just saying we have a chat, or we expect this chat struct here, and then it should still work because we pass in a chat struct there anyway, so we get still the same error. So now in the second case here, what we get is no function clause matching for update message. So it tries to call update message here with the with actually this OK wrapper here, and that's not correct. We just accept a simple message here. So the problem is that our test doesn't do the right thing. So what are we doing here? We get the create message, and the create message is actually not correct here. So what we get back from create is an OK result and a message, which is called message. So now things are going to work. And they are. So this shows quite nicely a problem that can be caught by static typing. But we caught it as well. So let's move this into message attributes. So the first thing, and now let's also so let's also create a proper fixture for this. So we can go into fixtures. We have the chat fixture. And within the chat fixture, we can also add so here we move now the creation of a dummy message for a given chat. So we can basically reuse this and not always create this again. So let's create the fixture with some attributes, defaults to an empty map. And what we want to return here is, once again, we get back an OK. This is then the attributes. Now for a given chat, so we want to pass in the chat as well. And so we have the attributes, which we pass then enum.into and we have just the user message, which we decided already to call always the same. Oh no, this is a user message. And once we have done that, we can insert this cozy coda dot chats dot create message, and then last we just return the good old message that we just created. So this is a pretty nice way to do that. So instead of creating the message, we can just say message equals message fixture from chat fixture. These two lines are gone. Here we go. Now we can pass in the message. And it should still work. And here we can create messages, nothing, we want to test like that. Oh no, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? No function clause, create message. Yep. On dum 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 dum. Okay, that's not exactly what we want. So here we see that we need wait 1 second. Yes, it puts it into the right part. That's the first argument. I'm not the only one searching for this. Let's say what the AI generated answer is here. Okay, I have, so what I can do is the second and third in parentheses. Huh? I don't get this one. You can define a name function to encapsulate the logic and make it easier to read. Super. Let's see, what do we find here? Just information upfront. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, let's not do this. Let's just keep it simple. So the problem is the result here cannot be passed in here. So we will not do it like this. So in this case, the OK message is the result of this line here. So this one here is different because it is in the end the So what we can do here is we can pass in the chat and then the attributes. So now it should work. Yay. It works. That's nice. Whew. So now we have the chat fixtures working, so now we can also reuse that one. We have a create message, we have an update message, so we can actually add the assistant response as well. What's next? We want to list the messages. So basically we are showing actually a concrete chat. So we have the chat and we now want to resolve the list of messages for this chat. We will not optimize it here, so maybe we'll do this later, but right now we will not. So let's just fetch a list of messages. So we will have a list messages. And this will of course not be of zero arity, it will be of arity 1 because we need to pass the chat. Returns all messages of the given chat. Great. So what do we need? We need, of course, a chat, which we can do with the chat fixture. And then we just create a message. Now let's call it a first message. Let's create 2 of them. So we can say we use the message fixture, pass in the chat. We create a second message, pass in the chat again, and then we just say assert chats list messages for the chat. And we expect this to be message. No, we expect this to be first message, second message. Of course, this will not work because we didn't create the list messages yet, so we have to do that, obviously. The other question is, does it make so much sense to fetch it by the chat? Not really sure about that. Because in the end, the chat itself contains a lot more information, but we don't need the full chat, actually. What we need is just the ID. So maybe we should list the messages per chat ID. That's probably the better approach. So let's do that. We can close this one. This one anyway, so here we go. Dev list messages by chat ID. That's the only thing we get, and let's do that. How do we best list them? Well, let's quickly look how the list works for the chat while we fetch repo all. Of course, that's not really what we want. So let's have another look into the that's even better. Not sure if we really want that in the end, but it's for now a pretty good solution. So let's really pass in the chat fully. And then we can just say repo. Wait. So what we can do is we can check if the messages are loaded, and if so, we preload them. We have already a chat, we can preload the messages and then return them. So basically, unless actor assoc loaded chat dot messages do was it repo preload? That was repo preload chat messages. what we can do. Ensure messages loaded. Sometimes you learn just during the implementation how it should work. So we don't do it like this. We do it like ensure messages loaded. Loads all messages of the given chat. So we say chats ensure messages loaded for the chat. And then we just say chat dot messages. Didn't work. Of course. So things are immutable in Elixir, which is a great feature. So we have to deal with that. The chat is, of course, not uploaded. It's a functional programming language. Of course, the chat is not updated when we pass it in. This is imperative programming, which doesn't make sense. So this is not what we want. Basically, let's see what this is telling us. Preloads. Associated given struct. Preload. Dun, dun, dun. Returns struct on it. Exactly. This is what I expected to happen. But what's the best way to do that? Well, we can also use it else. That works as well. So now we take the updated chat and check it. That's exactly what we want to. And of course, we also want to, once again, chat ensure message is loaded. Ah, I deleted it wrongly. So it still works, but we will once again change the name. Because actually it doesn't ensure this. It just ensures that the messages are loaded, so we can also just call it like that. So let's rename the function as well. One check, final check. Yay, here we go. Test is clear. So we are still missing a few things. So one thing that we are missing, but let's just copy it from here, is the doc on the message. So we can actually ensure that this is documented, and we can do the same here as well. So we also have a doc comment. And this loads messages of the given chat. Examples IEX load messages of chat, and this time we keep it very simple by just returning the chat struct. Oh, what? We need to close it. Here we go. So mix test should still work. So let's then commit the changes actually. So we have added something here as well. Test the fixtures, add messages to chat. So quick check. Okay, very good. Everything is working. Nice. So now we have the so now we have the chat messages. So before we do anything else, let's quickly fix the warning, because the compiler warning is like always just be very annoying. So let's check where this is happening. So it tells us we should use compile env3 instead. But what does compile env3 take into? Let's check what this is. It takes 3 variables. The app, okay, the key, and the default. Ah, this is optional. Very funny. That's it. No. Oh, gone. Nice. But I know that I edited somewhere else as well. And that's here. So let's fix this as well. Remove compiler warning. Oh, wonderful. So now we have this fixed. So we have our context ready. That's pretty nice. So next step is obviously to look into the live view. So there should also be the chat live view. And we don't care that much about the index on live view right now. What we care about is actually the show live view. So what is going on in the show live view? So, oh, my voice. So whenever the, well, let's do it. Mix Phoenix server. So let's run the server first. Wait. Wonderful. Okay, this didn't work, but no problem. We just removed that one. Then we fix just the router, that's also fine. Here we go. What? Wait. Whatever this was, that didn't really help us. So let's wait. What the? No root HTML template defined, but why not? It's here. It's still here. Nothing changed. Only that one changed. So what is the problem? That's a weird error. It recently still works, so let's see what we can do with this arrow. Flask fun. Okay, that's a very funny thing, but let's try it. RM minus RF. So let's compile everything new. If that's helping. Okay. Let's see if the page now loads again. Yes, it does. Okay. Such an obvious solution. So what we want to do is basically we want to click on it and show it. And then when we show it, we want to see it. But there is nothing to see right now. Right now there is just a title, which is Hello World. This is a chat record from your database. Well, wonderful. So basically what we want is we want the title to be shown here on the top, and then we want the chat messages being listed here. And this edit button doesn't make sense, but we can take care of that later. Oh, well, it makes sense, but what it basically does, it changes the chat settings. So basically what it does is it edits the title. So we probably want to keep it, modify it later, but let's keep that one. Of course, we don't want the UUID being shown here. That's fine that it's going to the URL, but not here. And for everything else, yeah, let's see how this gonna works. So we don't need the root here anymore, but we want this is a live view for showing. So basically this view that we are seeing here is actually the live view that we saw recently. So when we make this a little bit funnier and look into the network here, we see that this is actually the okay, this is actually messages that are locked here, but here's actually the WebSocket, and we see the messages here. So this is a live WebSocket, and this is a live reload WebSocket. That's actually the typical reload functionality all the wonderful web frameworks provide to us. But this is actually the thing that we're looking into. So we get heartbeats, and we can send updates through that. Nice. So let's check what we can do in the code. So basically right now we don't do anything. So we just have the mount, which does nothing. So right now the page is rendered on the server, it's shown, the WebSocket connects, calls the mount function, And now it could handle params, but all the params it handles is basically the ID. So now it handles the ID param. If this changes, then yeah, nothing. Actually, page title, well, page title is show or chat, or edit actually. So basically this means when we click on the edit button, the page title changes to edit, and if we close it again, this changes to show again. That's fantastic. So that's a very, very fancy live view. So let's also show the HTML for that. So this is our HTML, and the HTML is pretty simple. We have a header section with a subtitle. This is a chat record from your database. Woohoo! Yeah, that's what we have seen already. And we see also here the chat ID. And we said already we want the chat title to be shown here. And we actually don't need the chat. So if we compile this and go back, we see now the hello world here. So if we show it there, we also, well, we don't need this one as well. And we don't need the list with the item title. But let's keep this for a moment. So we have removed that one. So we have an item. Oh, no. Here it goes. So we have a slot item defined, which we can use like list. Here it goes. So we have the slot item, which is required, and the attributes title, string, and require, and we can pass it into the assign. So pass it into the list. So we have the list component here with a div, dl, div, dt. Interesting. And where's the title going? Here. Item title and item, which is exactly what we see here. In this case, the title is title and the value is hello world. So if we look here back, if we look back here, item, title. Yeah, exactly how it was. So that's fine. Nice. Yeah, before we go into that, we want to change first one thing. I promised this at the beginning of the stream already, so let's do that as well. So what we want to do is actually want the redirect functionality to be added. So how do we do that? Basically, we add this library here. Now let's make setup. And now we can go into the router, and from within the router we can say we don't want this to go to the home controller anymore, but instead we can first import redirect. And then we can use the redirect macro with an old path, a new path, and temporary flag. So the old path is the slash, the new path is chats, and we want this to be temporary. Why temporary? Because the well, it depends on the login status. You know, if you are not logged in, you want to be redirected there, but actually it is a permanent one. This is what they say here somewhere down. So we need to add this to the formatter. Imports. Nice. What? Let's start with the tests. Oh, 13 pages. But let's start with the warning at the beginning. So the warning is that this is not available or is yet to be defined. Are you kidding me? Interesting, interesting, interesting. So requires it. It is possible to alias, import, require, or use multiple modules at once. That's not very well. Require. Not sure if this is very helpful. Oh, come on. It's not for today, I guess. This happens if you just want to do something with in between. Don't do that. Always the same lesson learned. Until the next time, of course. Good. So, what does the time say? Great. So, let's go. So, we have the show. What we actually want to do in the show here is we want this not to be like that. What we want to do is basically to list a couple of items here and to load them. So let's quickly look Yeah, we can't find the internet. It's okay. So let's say Phoenix LiveView, navigation generators. What are generators? Includes code generators for LiveView. Okay, no, that's something we had already in place. So, what do we do next? Guides, Phoenix components. Server-side features, assigned Higgs templates, bindings. Okay, I think I will actually have to research this first. Bindings, handle event, deployments, assigns and Higgs templates, change tracking, child template, pitfalls. Nice. So, okay, I see this is not gonna work for today's stream. So we are pretty much done for today. And we'll see maybe tomorrow. I will do another stream coming up with actually the remaining parts and bringing the HTML part to life. So let's just commit this last thing, which is use chat title as title instead of ID as page title. So let's push this to my GitHub repository. So if you want to check this out, feel free to have a look into that. So there's now a branch at chats being created. Feel free to have a look into that. And yeah, maybe tomorrow we will do then, I'm not 100% sure if we will make it tomorrow, but maybe tomorrow we'll have then another stream actually on the remaining parts. Maybe it's more likely to do it on Tuesday. Let's plan for Tuesday actually. So see you then on Tuesday. And until then, let's build something cozy.